Hello and welcome to yet another video. Welcome to you all. For those of you who are new here, my name is Nicole and I like to come on here once a week to share messages of guidance, messages of support, insight that might be helpful as you continue on your journey of awakening or just trying to navigate and maneuver your way through this crazy world. We will continue to see interesting changes as time goes on, and really the intention for these videos is to help people get a bit of a better understanding as to what is happening at this time, because we are so material focused that we can tend to forget that what really controls and dominates this physical world is something that is non-tangible and non-visible. And it is really about understanding that spirituality is what dominates our physical reality. And if there are changes that we want to initiate, changes that we want to experience, if we want to improve our experience down here on this planet, then it is important to understand the mechanisms with which to maneuver and change these things, because we all have the ability to manifest and essentially create the life it is that we really desire to live. But one of the main reasons why we are not living the life that we desire is because of a misunderstanding as to how the world really works and operates. And so I really like to talk a lot about shadow aspects, which really refers to parts of ourselves that we are not aware exist. And a lot of these parts of ourselves exist as a result of difficult and challenging experiences that we've had in our lives that lead us to developing all kinds of different coping mechanisms, as well as the various behaviors and thoughts that we might be having on autopilot mode. And so, really for those of you who are wanting to improve your life situation, improve your life circumstances, and experience a new reality, then it is important to look at these different aspects. And it's funny because many people, this information of spirituality and personal development and personal growth has been around for a very long time. But it seems that there is quite a disconnect in terms of people receiving the information and absorbing it and actually implementing it, because nothing that I say in these videos is really new. I just help you to look at things that perhaps you might not have wanted to look at, or at least help you to look at things from a somewhat different perspective, to help you maybe think about things a little bit differently. So as usual, I like to use cards just to help me ground the energies and the messages that I feel that I need to share, as also there is so much information out there that unless I have some kind of an anchor, it's a little bit difficult for me to organize and arrange my thoughts. So I like to use different card decks here just to help me at least identify what are the core messages that you need to receive this week. And yes, I also love to hear from you all in the comments. I'm never sure whether these messages are resonating with you or not. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And there is a lot of shadow banning going on here on YouTube. So if you do resonate with the message and want to continue receiving content like this, then I ask that you please like, share, comment. Just do whatever it is that you need to do in order to let the algorithm know that you are interested in this information. So let's start off right here. From the first deck that I pulled was from Goddesses, Gods and Guardians. And so the question that I asked here is, what are the main energies that you are needing to sort of focus on at this time? And the first card that we had that came out was Rhiannon with Inner Strength. And absolutely, what is happening at this time is that this is probably not going to be easy to hear for some of you, but what if I were to tell you that a lot of the things that you thought were true were actually not true, or a lot of the information that we have been taught is actually incorrect, and a lot of the information that we have been sold, for lack of a better word, actually serves to keep us complacent to the system, which is a deeply parasitic system, which works to lift a very small number of people whilst feeding on the majority of people. And it's important that we all start to build inner strength, because I think it's safe to say that since around 2020, we've been seeing a lot of information come to the surface, a lot of information that was totally unknown prior, well, maybe not unknown, but to many, let's say to the masses, a lot of information was unknown, and there has been a lot of cognitive dissonance since then. But it is important, and this is why I keep telling people to go and really do their own research, because we are probably going to come to a time, as we've seen already since around the time of 2020, there is a lot of information that is being censored, and this is across all social media platforms. This is also on platforms such as Google. And so it is becoming more and more difficult to find alternative information. And, we can't just continue to follow what the mainstream media is telling us, because we have to remember that it is the same organizations, corporations, banking cartels that own basically all the massive systems that control our day-to-day life, whether this is education, entertainment, health, banking. All of these industries are essentially controlling the way that we live, because we feel that we are made to feel like we have some kind of freedom. But really, when we look back to, I was born in the 80s, but if we look back to before then, I mean, since the end of the Second World War, I think it's safe to say that our freedoms have been slowly being taken away. And the only way that this is going to stop is if we, the people, stand up and stop it from happening. But that does require a lot of inner strength, because it requires us to stand up against things that we always believed in. And of course, we live in a world that has continuously repeated to us that we, the people, are irrelevant, and that what kind of power do we hold? But we do hold power. It is simply that we have been programmed and manipulated and controlled into thinking that there is absolutely nothing that we can do. But we have to remember that we hold all the power, because we have been misinformed to think that what it is that we all need to be chasing is money, when really that's not at all the case. Because what it is that we are really chasing is freedom. But how many of us are really free today? And the reason why so few of us are not free, is because we don't have the inner strength to go against what the general populace is saying. And my opinions have always been the least popular, and for a long time I wanted to hold back and didn't want to rock the boat and share my opinions. But I was always told that one must question everything. And I remember when I was a child, my dad used to get really annoyed at me because I was always asking him a million questions. But having had a university education, one of the things that I was always taught was to think critically and to question everything. But it seems that we now live in a world where questioning is somehow now in line with conspiracy theories. And again, I just have to highlight here that the word conspiracy theory was a word that was coined by the CIA. I think it was in like the 1960s, when a lot of people in America were fighting against the Vietnam War, and there was the hippie movement, and this was really the first time that people were standing up and rising against the system. And so, it seems that today people who rise up and stand up and question and don't accept and go beyond what is being showed at face value, well, these people are dubbed conspiracy theorists. And this is why, too much information is coming out now. And so the easiest thing to do is to censor, but it is us, the people, who have to take our power back. Because if we, the people, do not fight to maintain our power, then slowly, just like during the Second World War, people ask how, the party in Germany was able to take over and to cause all those horrific acts that they did. Well, it's because these things were done slowly and things were implemented gradually. And the only reason that they they passed was because a lot of people were just like, oh, well, if it doesn't affect me, then it's not going to be a problem. But this is how freedom gradually gets eroded, because it starts with one group and then another and then another and then another, until eventually we realize that it's the whole race. Because we have to remember that these tactics of divide and conquer have been used for thousands and thousands of years, and they serve to cause confusion, because we, the masses, are actually the ones who can be in control, but somehow a very small minority group of people have been able to convince us that we hold no power and that we should trust them to have our best interest at heart. But I mean, if since the end of the Second World War, I certainly haven't seen the world improving. In fact, I think it's safe to say that the world is even regressing. And we are supposedly, we've trusted our governments and these corporations and financial institutions and whatever else you want to call it, who keep telling us, trust us, we have your best intention at heart. And clearly we're seeing that that is just not the case. And so it's time to build that inner strength and take our power back and realize that convenience is not the end all be all, but it's just that we seem to want to sit around and watch TV all the time so that it's convenient for us to just have other people do everything for us, and that just isn't the way it's supposed to be. And so really what this card is saying here with building inner strength is it's letting us know that if we do not build our inner strength now, then things are going to be pretty disastrous. And I guess I really want to highlight this for the people out there who have children, because maybe these changes that are being implemented are not affecting you now, but if they're not affecting you now, think about what might happen to your children in the long run. And I think it's safe to say that the state of the world is not exactly in the best situation, and so it's time that we stand up and we do something about it. Because really, if we don't do anything about it now, then what is really going to be the state of our future? And people are so complacent and they want to give their power away and think that, the governments have the best intentions for us, but this is just simply not true. And so especially another thing that I really want to highlight is, more and more truths are going to continue coming to the surface, and there's so much information that is coming out across the board, and for those, and it's hard to keep up to date with everything that is happening. But a lot of information is coming to the surface of uncomfortable and inconvenient truths about the people who lead our world and how they've been up to some very, very dodgy things. And so the best thing that we can do is simply not continue to give them our energy, our attention, our money, and any of it, because we continue to worship people who we think are good, and that just simply isn't true. And so the more inner strength we have and the more resilience that we build for ourselves, the less we are going to be destabilized by all the new truths that are going to continue coming to the surface over the next however long it takes, because we're in for a hell of a ride. And if we don't start getting comfortable with a lot of discomfort, then, this is why we're being asked to build a really strong foundation for ourselves mentally as well as emotionally, so that as all these new truths continue coming in, we aren't going to be so destabilized. And because unfortunately human beings, they seem to connect their identity to all kinds of things that are not in fact true. And so your identity has nothing to do with your job or your nationality or your likes and your dislikes. You're so much more than that. And once you know who you really are, then it becomes easier to detach from all these false beliefs that you have had to hold on to in order to make yourself feel safe or comfortable, or in order to help you to feel whatever it is that you needed to feel in order to continue moving forward. So the next card that we have here is Hathor with Soul Family. And Hathor in ancient Egypt, she's one of these goddesses from ancient Egypt, and I think she was the goddess of, I can't even remember, but it had something to do with, she was depicted by the cow, and I think it had to do with fertility. Let's actually see. Oh, look at this. Opened the page directly on on Hathor. So here it says soul family, destined reunions. Support for your journey is here. So beloved to ancient Egyptians for over 3,000 years, Hathor is a goddess of light, joy, and gratitude. She was a guardian spirit of women and nourished the universe with her milk, including her son Ra, Ra who was depicted as the sun god. And really, if we think back to ancient times, why is it that we see so many different cultures way back when that were worshipping the sun? It's because, well, this was about, they understood the cycles of nature, and they understood that the sun is what gave everything life, and that each day as the sun rose, it brought light down, and it helped with agriculture, and it brought in light, and it allowed everything to grow and to persevere. And so we have forgotten how nature is actually what upholds everything in our lives on a daily basis. But we now live in a world where we have totally disrespected nature. And so, as I've said in many of my previous videos, one of the things that we are seeing at this time is the rise of the divine feminine. And so this is not to be confused with gender. I'm really talking about energy here, and feminine energy is present in both women and men. And so we are seeing a rise of those more feminine qualities coming back up into our world, and justice is a big part of it, because I think it's safe to say that we have been living in a world where justice has not really prevailed for the majority, because our justice system essentially continues to be a system that those with the most finances can continue to rig in their favor, whilst those people who have done nothing wrong end up getting, fucked over or get stuck in the crosshairs of these judicial systems. And so her temples were full of dancing, music, and pleasure. So these are also very much, feminine qualities. And yes, and when I talk about pleasure, I'm also talking about, more positive pleasures, not these corrupted pleasures that people seem to be enjoying today, because people seem to enjoy all kinds of pleasures that are not actually advancing us forward. So her symbols are the sun and the moon, a lioness, a winged cow, a sycamore tree, a rattle used at celebrations. Queen of both the underworld and the sky, this multi-talented goddess manifested as the 7 Hathors who appeared at a child's birth and foretold its destiny. In goddess spirituality, Hathor presides over the moon temples, sacred gatherings that draw together ancient soul circles to receive divine downloads and worship the goddess. So really here, when the card talks about soul family, it's really helping you to understand that, the more you surrender to this spiritual journey, and understanding that there is something so much bigger than us that is actually here to help us on this journey. But these things cannot help us unless we surrender to them, unless we actively ask them for help. And when we have been living in a world that is continuously telling us that you are alone, there's nothing to help you, that all you see is all you get, well then eventually you start to believe it. But this is why children are so incredible. And the more we allow children to be in their creativity and in their imagination, and the beauty with children is because they are still closer to the spirit world than we are, because they haven't yet been indoctrinated by all the programming of this matrix reality. And so as a result of that, children have so much to teach us, but we keep thinking that because they're younger than us in age, they have less to teach us. But that is just not true. Children have so much to teach us. And the thing is, there is information coming in from all over, and the more we surrender, and the more we look to our ancestors and our ancestral spirits and our spirit guides and the angels, and all these beings that are here to support us on our journey, the more we ask them for help, the more we are building our soul family. But we're also building our soul family physically, in that we're connecting with like-minded people who are also wanting to experience a better world, both on an individual level as well as a collective level. And let's not forget that we are in the age of Aquarius now, which is all about using our energies towards positive collective change. because so many of us have been using our energies for individualistic change, and that's why it's not happening. Because if everyone is so focused on me and not really thinking about the effects that that has on other people, well, then we end up making somewhat selfish changes. So the next card we have here is Imhotep with Visionary, again from ancient Egypt here. And so Imhotep was he was a pharaoh who was practicing medicine, you know, way back when. It was like 2,000 years ago, and they say that he is one of the fathers of modern medicine today. And so this is why he was a visionary, you know, and so he was after his death elevated to, you know, a god of medicine. And so really what this card is asking you here is what is the vision that you hold? Because, you know, really we all came here to experience growth and beauty and joy and peace and harmony. And of course, we also came here to experience the not so easy aspects, because it is when we experience those not so easy aspects that we grow and we expand. But right now we are all being asked to hold a vision for what it is that we want to experience, because this is why there is so much turmoil. Because when we got to 2020, there was a cycle of, I think it was 26,000 year cycle that was coming to an end. And so we are in the phase of kind of in between a new cycle beginning. And they say that 2030 is when the new cycle will fully be anchored in. And this is why that we're seeing so much chaos and so much turbulence, because, you know, the powers that were are of course wanting to maintain their power and dominance over the way the world works, but we the people are beginning to rise up. And this is why there is a fight, and we are in the midst of a war, whether people want to believe this or not. It's just that this war is not being fought in the same way as previous wars were fought. This time the war we are fighting is a deeply psychological one, which is why those people who have knowledge and those people who are educated in all of these concepts, especially spirituality, because we are also fighting a spiritual war. It is a fight between good and evil, and this is a war that has been fought for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But we are at a point now where the energies are supporting us to move into a new positive cycle. But the only way this will happen is if we all individually raise our vibration and continue taking action towards a future that is beneficial. Rather, you know, we all complain about the system and we all complain about the state of the world, but what we forget to remember is that we are all actively creating this reality. And so again, it's easy to blame everybody else and say, oh, the government, and oh, the church, and oh, this and oh, that. But yes, all of these institutions have programmed us and have manipulated us into looking at the world through a very specific lens. But it is time that we realize that it is in every single choice that we make and every single action that we take that we are upholding and continuing to perpetuate the system. So what is it that we are going to do now in order to stop the system from perpetuating? Because this is what we all need to do in order to change this reality. But you can already start by changing your own reality, and when you change your reality then starts to seep into the reality of everyone around you, therefore changing their reality. And then it's just a snowball effect where eventually we're all beginning to change our realities, and then the collective reality also starts to change as well. So what is the vision that you are holding for your life individually as well as collectively? So the next card that we have here is Ogma with Watch Your Words. Yes, and you know what's interesting is that, you know, why they say watch your words is because we don't realize how, you know, especially our internal self-dialogue, is how many of us are saying things all the time without necessarily realizing what it is that we're saying, you know. So we can say, yes, we want to experience success, but then unconsciously in our mind, the conversations we're having is, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm never going to accomplish that. Oh, no, I don't have what it takes. Oh, no, you know, no matter how much I try, I never get there. And and so by constantly having this negative internal self-dialogue, what you don't realize you're doing is that you're attracting more negativity towards yourself. And so this is why, you know, we have to be very attentive with the words that we are speaking, both internally and externally. You have to ensure that your dialogue internally and externally is aligned with this vision that you're holding for yourself. Because if you're saying, oh, the vision I'm holding for myself is one of success and joy and happiness and peace, and yet all you're constantly thinking about is all the negativity in the world, well, what you don't realize is that you're attracting more of that to you. And so it is important that we start to understand how we function as a human being, because we tend to think that who we are is our body, and that is just not true. We have not been educated enough that what governs this physical body is our soul, which is non-tangible, but our soul can never die. And so once you start to realize that you have both a conscious and a subconscious mind, and once you start operating more from your subconscious mind, because you have access to way more information that you even know, but it's just that you don't know how to tap into that part of yourself. And so this is why spirituality and personal development and spending time with yourself, contemplating and just, you know, paying attention to why you do the things you do and what beliefs you hold, and, you know, why you say some of the things you say, you will start to realize that there is something deeper that is perhaps controlling you that you are completely unaware of. And so you have to start becoming more aware of that aspect of yourself, because that is the aspect of yourself that is actually manifesting the reality in which you are living. And if you are not content and fulfilled with the reality that you are currently living, then something somewhere is misaligned. And so it's important to look to what is going on with your mental space. What are the thoughts that you're holding? What is the main emotions that you tend to feel on a general basis? Because if you're constantly feeling depressed and anxious, then you have to start looking to your thoughts. If you're feeling depressed and anxious, it's because you're either worrying so much, or you're scared about something, or you're creating these false scenarios in your mind that haven't yet even existed, but you're so scared that they're going to exist that you end up manifesting them into your reality. So start being very mindful about that internal dialogue that you're continuously running without necessarily being aware. The next card we have is egg, idea, act of creation, coming into form, fragility. So this really makes me think of that visionary card. Is, you know, something, there is an idea that is ready to be birthed. It's still somewhat in the fragile, you know, stage, but, you know, what you are being asked now is to act on that creation. Because, you know, one of the hardest steps is taking that first action. We get so stuck in our heads that we just don't know how to move forward. We don't know how to take that action. Those thoughts that we have, those emotions that are being generated by those unconscious thoughts that are constantly running in our mind, are telling us, no, 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 they are blocking us from taking action. And so it's easy enough to say, oh, everything is stacked against me. But if you're not finding that drive, if you're not finding that strength to be able to take that first step towards wherever it is that you wish to be, then you're obviously not going to get there. And this is why we are in a stage of collective healing, because we all have things to heal within ourselves in order to move towards whatever it is that we wish to experience, what you know, what the life that it is that we wish to live. But, you know, first has to come that idea, and then has to come the action. So yes, what is that vision that you're holding for yourself? What are the words you're telling yourself about that vision and about you being able to create that vision for yourself? And what is it now that you need to do in order to start creating that thing for yourself? So the next card we have here is mountain, being grounded, connection between the earth and the heavens. Take your time. Yes, You know, you have to be solid and unmovable as a mountain, because you see what happens is that when we have an idea, whether it's we're wanting to better our lives, whether we're wanting to change bad habits, whether we're wanting to create something in the world, you see a lot of the time what happens is we want to tell the people around us. And what happens is that if those people around us are not in a place of success, are not in a place of strength, are not in a place of stability, then what will happen is unconsciously they will start to project their own fears onto what it is that you wish to do, or they will project their own shit onto you. And so this is why it is important to move in silence. If there is something that you are wanting to do, don't tell everybody about it, just do it. And once you have that thing off the ground, then you can tell other people about it, because people don't realize is that by sharing information with the people around them, this can have an effect. Everybody's energy can then start to, you know, just be in what it is that you're trying to do, and that can cause issues. And so really it's about being grounded, just trust in yourself. And you know, that's why when we start asking other people's advice, then we can also get destabilized. But it's about be as strong as a mountain, trust in your abilities, trust that your soul family, trust that, you know, your ancestors, your angels, your guides, whatever it is you want to call it, the Most High, the creator, source energy, whatever it is that you want to call it, whatever it is that you tune into to bring you that support, to bring you that guidance. You know, it's about pulling in from the heavens, but being grounded on this earth and taking action, you know, listening to that information that comes through and taking action on it. It's about being connected with your intuition. And especially at this time, allow your intuition to guide you. As I keep saying, discernment is so important at this time. And people who are not connected to themselves spiritually will not be able to have that strong spirit of discernment, because discernment is very subtle. It's about tuning into the subtle energies and questioning, okay, what is really going on here? There's something more than what is being presented to me. What is really going on here? And of course, take your time. You know, if you take one gradual step every day, eventually that thing that you are trying to birth or create will actually happen. But how many people, they talk themselves out of creating these things. So if you're trying to create a new habit, if you're trying to make a change in your life, if you're trying to build something, then just make gradual changes towards it every day. If you just do something small towards that thing every single day, then you will eventually get there. But the thing is, we confuse ourselves and we try and, you know, do something really big and really massive, and we overwhelm ourselves being like, oh, I don't know where to start. But break it down into really small pieces, and that then makes it easier to maneuver. So the next, it's interesting how we're seeing, like, you know, the cards are really showing how to go about building what it is that you truly desire for your life, what it is that you are wanting to change, what it is that you want to experience. So as you have gone through being that sturdy mountain, now is when you have the rising of the phoenix. So it says here, phoenix reborn, showing up for your calling, transcending time. Yes, these are the energies that you need in order to come to this phoenix rising moment. You know, perhaps you have been in a state of stuckness. You have been in a state of, oh, I don't really know how I'm going to continue moving forward. Maybe you're feeling just like, oh, I'm just so done with all this nonsense that's going on. Maybe you've been feeling that you're taking a few steps forward and many more steps back, but it's showing you that there is a calling here that you are meant to experience. This is your opportunity for rebirth. This is your opportunity to grow into something new, to experience something more, to, as the card says here, to show up for your calling, because I'm certain that you feel something deep inside of you calling. And you know, it's funny because so many people talk of people having midlife crises, but it's totally not a midlife crisis. What it is, it's a spiritual awakening where people realize, oh, actually I want to experience so much more for my life. So if you are at a place in your life where you thought you would be somewhere so different at this time of your life, then, you know, it's never too late. It's never too late to change your world around and to do something different and to go down the path that it is that you truly desire. But the only thing that is stopping you from that is your fears and your internal dialogue, and perhaps the people around you who you think are for you and who are not really for you. Because something that I've learned is when somebody wants to do things differently and get away from, the norm, and others who are not willing to be on that same journey, then there will always be a lot of unconscious jealousy that people project your way. And so this is your time to rise up. This is your time to experience something so much more. And the energies of the universe are supporting this. But the only thing that's lacking here is your ability to believe in yourself and to take those steps to move forward. So the next card we have is Arrow. Surround yourself with protective energy. Yes, there is a lot of negative energy that is floating around at this time, because the more people start to awaken to the reality of the world that we are living in, it's like the more people shine a light on the darkness, the more we see the darkness. And so there is a lot of darkness in a lot of people around us, and that darkness also manifests as unprocessed, previous traumas or unprocessed emotions that we've been holding on to, which, end up building up anger and resentment and all these things that we hold inside of ourselves. They don't really help us in the long run. They actually end up causing all kinds of difficult things. And so also, surrounding yourself in protective energies is not sharing your information with everyone around you, and realizing that not everyone always has your best intentions at heart. So, I'm not trying to tell you that you need to be wary of your friends or your family, but just, you don't need to share everything with everyone all the time until you're actually at a point where things are moving. Because when other people's energies tune into what you're trying to do, this can cause distortion. And again, people are doing these things a lot of the time unconsciously because of their own stuff, their own programming, their own issues that they haven't yet had a chance to look at. So the next card we have here is Sage. Be devoted and committed, yes, to whatever it is that you are trying to build in for your life, new habits, new life, new experiences, whatever it may be devoted and committed towards that thing. And the thing is that it is hard, you will be, when you're starting something up new that you haven't done before, you will be faced with challenges and lessons and all kinds of things that are going to come to the surface. But these are opportunities for you to grow. These are opportunities for you to learn things about yourself. These are opportunities for you to discover limiting beliefs that perhaps you're holding internally that you didn't even know were there. So whenever you are faced with challenges and difficulties and all of these kinds of things, rather than retreating and being like, poor me, the world is out to get me, ask, what is it that I am supposed to learn from this? What is it that I need to learn? What is it about myself that you are trying to show me? What is it that I need to change in order to make it easier for me to get to wherever it is that I am trying to get? So the next card we have here is Lady. Enjoy growth and reap rewards. So the more you follow this trajectory here, the more you will reap rewards, the more you will see your successes coming to fruition. But the thing is, the number one thing that most people forget is to remain committed. Keep taking actions. Everything that you are doing should be aligned with whatever it is that you are wanting to experience. So the next card we have here, so I picked from the Dragon Oracle cards, and I love the dragons, and this is very, we just like how we talk about unicorns and fairies, and the dragons also exist on a very, very high dimension. And we have been told that the dragons are, they're negative, and whenever we look at movies with dragons, they're always portrayed as really bad and gruesome and whatever. And it's funny because, and some of you might think that I'm a little bit crazy for sharing this, but I have had a lot of personal experiences with the dragons, and the information that I received when I commune with the dragons, because I communicate with them in, when I'm in my meditations, and even when I've been through psychedelic experiences, I have very, very much connected with the dragons. And the dragons, actually, the message that they continue to repeat to me is that the dragons are here to help the children, because we live in a world that is built on the suffering of children. And you know, one doesn't have to look very hard to see what that this is the reality, but unfortunately somehow we all seem to turn a blind eye to it, or you know, some kind of veil has been placed over our eyes so that we cannot see the suffering that children are going through. And you know, this really makes me think about how on the African continent, at least, you know, people are really, really, really pushed to have children, even if they don't want it. And yet, when I look at how many people are struggling to afford to even have children, to, to, to be able to give their children a good life, and people keep popping out kids left, right, and center, even against the desire or the choice of the woman. And this is why so many women are having things like fibroids, because it's like your womb is becoming hostile because you don't actually want to have children, but you're being forced into it. And so your body literally is shutting down and saying, hey, I don't want this. So anyways, I'm not going to get into that too much here, but something to really think about. But, you know, and this is again coming back to this inner strength card, that our inner strength is being built here to be able to prepare us for the truths that are going to continue coming out, because a lot of the truths that are going to continue coming out, and a lot of these truths are still being suppressed, but you can, especially now that Trump is president, there is more and more information that is going to continue coming out about just how disastrously children have been being treated, and how this matrix system in which we live is built on the suffering and the torture even of young children. And so just be mindful. And this is why this dragon energy is here, because the dragons are really, they operate in a much, much higher dimension, but they are really here working with us to help us reach a higher state of consciousness, so that we can receive this information that is coming in, which is really, if there is anything that we need to do moving forward, is we need to be fighting for the children. And for somebody who, I think I've said it on this, you know, on this channel many times before, you know, I have never wanted to have children. And I think that's part and parcel to the fact that I had a horrific childhood. And so when I look at people around me who are wanting to have children, I always question, have you really thought consciously about having these children? Are you even aware of the world that you are bringing your children into? And so if you are not consciously fighting to make this world a better place, and you have young children or are planning to have children, then I'm sorry to say that there is something very wrong with you. There is some cognitive dissonance there, or there is something that you are not thinking about. But this world is not a good place for children. And when we look at, you know, things like the rise of AI and all of these things, we have to really start thinking, what are we doing today in order to ensure that, you know, the younger generations have a future to look forward to? Are we really going to leave them a shithole, or are we actually going to do everything in our power to ensure that the lives of these younger people does improve? Because, you know, when you think about these younger generations and everything that they have had to live through since COVID, I mean, think about how traumatic and difficult, you know, since those times of COVID, and even today, how difficult this is on adults. Think about how this is affecting the children. This is affecting them so much more than we realize. So if there is anything that we are doing now, is we are building strength in order to be able to protect the children, and not only our own children, but all the children of this world, because there is too much suffering. And if there is one group that is suffering more than any other on this planet, it is the children. So you can go and do your research. You can find out about the recent military operations that were happening in America, where thousands of children have been saved from horrific things. So the first card that message that we have from the dragons here is Rose Pink Dragon. Prepares your heart to connect with the higher facets of the cosmic heart. Yes, everything that is happening right now is we have been living not from a place of heart, but from a place of mind, which is why we have become so detached and so desensitized, you know, and a big part of this is from the movies that we watch. People are, you know, unaliving themselves all the time on movies, and yet we can see all this gory blood and horrific stuff, and yet it doesn't seem to affect people so much anymore. And it is because we have been desensitized. We have been desensitized in the movie so that we can be desensitized in real life. Because how is it that we can see a starving child and we can look away and and think that this is normal. We have to do something about this collectively. And the more that we are in our hearts, the more we will stand up and not accept what is happening. So open your heart to warm-hearted love and diamond light. Connect with the love of the universe. Yes, we are being asked to open up our hearts, to soften our hearts, to realize that there is so much more going on that we really understand. And the reason why these things have been able to go on for as long as they possibly have is because many of us have closed off our hearts. And a lot of the time this has happened not because we wanted to, but because of trauma and difficulties that we too have experienced. And this is because this world serves to traumatize us continuously and continuously. The next card we have is a message from the Golden Orange Dragon. Expand your light for ascension. Be a peaceful warrior. Help those in need. Remember your magnificence. Yes, if we all helped those in need, because you know, we can always help those in need. And this doesn't always mean giving money. There are other ways in which we can help people in need. But if we can help, I believe that we should. And this is not to say that we always have to help, but if you can help, why not help? This is my question, you know. It seems that few people help others, and as we are, you know, we are in the midst of a cold war, and I certainly hope that it doesn't turn into an all-out war. But one of the ways in which we can ensure that this war doesn't totally manifest is by understanding that, you know, in previous times people would police each other. And when we learn that if we stop policing one another and realizing that we are not each other's enemies, we have been controlled and manipulated into believing that we are each other's enemies, but we all want the same things deep down, and we are all fighting against the system as opposed to each other. Deep down, you know, many people are traumatized and in pain and in survival and in suffering. But if we all just treated each other with love and compassion, and when somebody, you know, shouts at us, rather than shouting back, maybe say, hey, what's wrong? Maybe you just need a hug. So how can we, you know, this expanding of our light is, we all have to learn to move with peace and kindness and realize that we have all been fucking traumatized. We have all been hurt by the system in which we live. And rather than perpetuating it, let us see how we can start to shift it from the inside out. So the next card we have here is the Orange Dragon. Bring soul families and communities together. And it's funny because this Hathor card is also a lot of orange. And this Orange Dragon here is also talking about bringing soul families and communities together. Because one thing that we have seen since the rise of the internet, and one thing that we will see if we continue to see AI expanding the way it is there is going to be less and less community. And one of the things that human beings have really been craving is community. So how is it that you can continue to build your community? And this can be an online community, an offline community, you know, whatever community means to you. How can you build that? Because that is what we are all really, really craving deep down. So spread belonging, warmth, and oneness. Bring people everywhere together. This is also what Aquarius energy is all about. It is about bringing people together, to use the energy of the group to create something that is beneficial for the world at large. So the next card we have is positivity, faith, and optimism. You open the doorway to positive experiences and opportunities with your positive expectations and energy. Do not allow negative energy or temporary setback to interfere with the path that you are on. Keep the faith and keep going. Yes, there will be many tests on this journey, and you know, it is safe to say that I am somebody who, you know, I had suicidal thoughts for the majority of my life. I wanted to die for the majority of my life. But something kept me going through all the neglect, all the trauma, all the abuse that I experienced throughout my childhood. You know, this affected me, and still today, you know, in my 30s, I'm still working on healing some of the repercussions that all of this stuff had on me. But I realized that rather than wallowing in my sadness and wallowing in all the things that happened in the past, and I just kept holding that vision and kept moving towards that vision and kept trusting that I would get there. And today I live a very different I live a very different life than I used to. And so this is also to help you understand that when you go onto this healing journey, and I know that it is not easy and you will be faced with a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities to experience parts of yourself that you didn't know were there. But these opportunities, by holding that faith and continuing to move forward, you will get there. Just trust and believe in yourself. Trust and believe that there is something more for you waiting on the other side, but it does require commitment. It does require dedication to this path and continuing to hold that vision. And last but not least, we have exercise to increase your energy and manifestation abilities. The key to manifesting quickly is to have very high energy levels, and the easiest way to increase them is through physical exercise. Choose a fun and meaningful activity so that you'll look forward to exercising and it becomes its own reward. Yes, what most people don't realize is that on this journey of creating what it is that you really desire, the number one thing that you need that to get there is physical health, because we don't understand just how much our physical health plays on our mental state of being as well as our emotional state of being. So get moving. Many of us are just way too stagnant in our lives, and we don't realize that by moving we release all kinds of endorphins, and these endorphins boost our mood, they boost our metabolism, they improve our blood flow, they improve the way we think, they improve the way we look at the world. And so all of this really is showing you the steps that you need to take towards manifesting whatever it is that you truly desire for your life. So get healthy, get moving, be mindful of what it is that you are ingesting, be mindful of all of the content that you are consuming, the energies you're consuming, the foods you're consuming. All of these things play a part in your life. So I hope that this message has been helpful. I certainly hope that it has given you at least a blueprint as to how to manifest what it is that you truly desire, and to show you that when you do, the universe supports those who manifest what they desire, because we all came here to experience joy and love and freedom and the opportunity to know ourselves on a deeper level. And so if there is something in your heart that you truly desire, then the universe will support you in getting there. But the number one thing you have to remember is consistency. Every single choice, every single action must be aligned with getting you on that path, because that is the number one thing that is holding you back. But remember, there is support out there for you, and you are not alone on this journey. So again, if this message resonated, please like, share, comment, share it with a friend. I would love to hear from you. Where are you in your manifestation journey? What are you even manifesting? Or even if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. I would love to be of service wherever I can. So much love to you all, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye for now.